What's up guys, Mark here, back with another quick design tutorial, and today I want to show you guys how you can add some cool looking speed lines, as I call them, to your type or lettering. So if you've clicked on the video, chances are you've already seen one in the thumbnail, but there's also another example here on the left, which is one that I actually drew by hand. But you can do this effect entirely in Illustrator without having to draw anything, which is awesome. So that's what we're going to do today. So for the sake of this tutorial, I'll just delete this image real quick actually. For the sake of this tutorial, you're going to want to have 3 layers. You want one for the text, and then I'll have 2 others for the shadows and the lines. Don't worry about what that means just yet. I'm going to explain it very soon. In the text layer, I've just typed the word I want. I'm just going to use the word speed as an example. This font is Gotham, and I've used the black italic version. I think it's cool if you use an italic. It kind of gives that impression that it's moving. It's a little bit easier. I just think it looks a little better, to be honest. So once you've got some type or some lettering there, just make sure that it's been set to outline. So right click and create outlines. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to actually ungroup these because I'm going to want to do some work to each individual letter soon as well. So now that that's out of the way, I'll make it a little bigger, and I'm going to lock the text layer. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to my lines layer, and what I want to do is draw a small rectangle, a black rectangle. I think something like that should do fine. And I'm just going to try and overlay this now in some sort of random parts where I think I might want to have sort of like a speed line showing. So I'll just quickly pop a few of these in here. I might end up fast forwarding this part of the video so you don't have to watch it all. And I try and make them different lengths as well. So some that are just peeking out, some that are sticking pretty far out, for example. And just trying to scatter them fairly randomly. Don't want them to be too predictable. Okay, and I might just add one more there. Okay, very good. So it's starting to come together. So now that I've got these lines out of the way, I'm going to jump to my shadows layer. So I'm going to lock the layer with all these rectangles. I don't want to touch them right now. I'll explain why in a moment. So on my new layer, I'm going to draw another rectangle underneath one of these shadows. I'll try and match it to the same, and I'm going to set the color to white. And what we're going to do is to basically create the shadows as if it's kind of peeling off. So one thing that I found that works well is if you have a rectangle like this, use the remove anchor point tool, which is the hyphen or the minus or dash, whatever you want to call it, on your keyboard. Click that and just delete one of the points so it becomes a triangle like that. So you can see it starts to create that negative space, that sort of illusion that there's a shadow there. So then again, same as before, I'm just going to keep duplicating this and sticking them under each one of those speed lines. Now I know it doesn't look super realistic just yet, but don't worry, there's a few special things we're going to do to really give it that edge and yeah, just make it look a bit more legit. Okay, cool. So already it's starting to look a little bit more legit. Still looks a bit fake, so that's all right though. I've got some ways we can fix that. So now I'm just going to temporarily lock this shadows layer with all these white shadows on it. And I'm going to jump back to my text layer real quick. And I'm actually just deciding now that I'm going to make a couple of minor changes, because I think one thing that makes this look much more realistic is when the really sharp corners have been slightly rounded to be a bit more subtle. So with my letter selected, in fact, I'm just going to select all my letters. I'm going to hit A, which is the direct selection tool, and just really subtly bring those edges in a bit so they're just a bit softer. I think that's going to help to make this look a bit more realistic. So now I'm going to lock that layer again for a moment and jump back to my lines. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted the lines and the text on separate layers is because we can very easily click this icon here next to our lines layer, and it will automatically select all of these for us at once, so we don't have to click them manually, which would have been really painful. And I'm going to do a really similar thing here. I'm just going to be really subtly bringing in these edges maybe like that, I think, just to make them look a little bit more realistic. Yeah, I think that looks a bit better. So the next step is to grab both my text and all my lines. So if you don't have the Pathfinder window open, by the way, you can get that just by clicking on Window and then selecting Pathfinder. So now that I've got all these highlighted, I'm just going to use the Unite tool to merge them. So now that's all just one solid object. And now what I want to do is basically, if I unlock all my layers real quick, just to show you something, we have a bit of an issue here, because if I grab this and I move it to a background that's not white, those white shadows are still visible. So we need to sort of subtract those from the shape, which we can do with the Pathfinder tool as well. So I'm going to ungroup this because I'm going to do them one by one. And I'm going to select my S and the 3 white shadows that are on this letter. And I'm going to hit the minus front tool. And that way, now if I just grab that S and drag it out, what it's done is it has basically hole punched those out. So if I just put that back, and now I'm going to do a fairly similar effect actually. I think I want to just smooth off a few more of these edges. So with the direct selection tool, I'm just going to grab this corner here, just round it off a little bit, I think, to make it look a bit more realistic. And I'll try and do this one here too if I can. Yeah, just to, again, make it look a little bit more legitimate. So from there, I'm just going to rinse and repeat. So I'm going to do this for all of them across all of the letters. So I'll just quickly pause this and I'll see you in a sec. Alrighty, so now I finished up tweaking all those little corners. While I had the video paused, I actually decided to just do a second version and just really kind of push those white shadows a little bit wider as well, to create a bit more of a dramatic effect as well. So yeah, there you have it. That's pretty much it. Now that that's all done, I can drag it onto any background I want and it will be transparent in those little shadow areas. So yeah, that's pretty much how I add those little speed lines to my text. Hopefully you guys found this useful. If you did, I'd really appreciate if you could give it a thumbs up or consider subscribing to the channel. If anything I covered here didn't make sense, or you want me to further explain a particular step, just ask away in the comments and I'll do my best to reply to all of them. Thanks very much, guys. I'll see you in the next video.